Okay, so hello. I wanted to discuss a little bit today about how to beat PePe, and that goes for uh, the mirror match and playing any other deck. So whatever meta deck is good right now, Mermail, Cosmo, uh, anything that can sort of stand on its two toes against PePe. That includes the mirror match. So in the mirror match with PePe, let's start with the most relevant of the discussion. There's a bit of a issue I find, and I'm trying to find cards that deal with the PePe mirror match in such a way where number one, you don't lose going second if you play these cards. So if you play lots of traps, you're probably going to win if you open some sort of a combo and some back row going first in the PePe mirror match. Sometimes grinding out through a strike and a treacherous, or two strikes and a time space or something like that, is just a little too much to deal with in the mirror match. On the other hand, you're not going to win every dice roll, and your opponent's going to go first, and it seems like the kind of unanimous decision that people have decided on currently is that the best way to play the PePe mirror match is to go first. Which is fair enough, because if you can make boards like, Infinity and two other XEs potentially, why wouldn't you do that? So it's a bit of a tricky situation, because usually the way I see it in the PePe mirror match, whoever goes second and successfully breaks the board tends to win. If you go second and you manage to dismantle your opponent's Nova, Rafflesia, and if you play through all this stuff, you've probably won the match at that point, because it's kind of hard to come back from a board wipe with PePe, because the pendulum mechanic is strong going first, obviously, but your XE materials are going to go to the graveyard, so I don't see where your resources are going to come from to be able to fight back if you've lost your board turn one. So let's take a look at some of the cards that I've been looking at, and this kind of goes for all decks currently, and it's basically how to beat the PePe deck. So Rogue, of course, they're going to play lots of back row, they're going to play lots of floodgates. That's pretty standard. Why? I mean, it's in my previous video I talked a lot about this kind of aspect where playing Rogue or playing back row in any sort of shape or form, that doesn't really work. We're at a stage in the format, not really the format, in the game rather, where traps just haven't been good for months, maybe even over a year now. I mean, I can't remember, like, apart from Burning Abyss and maybe like Clifforts, like strong tier 1 decks, like Necros for example, they never played traps, although my friends did top Euros playing Anti-Spell in the Necros mirror, which is funny. But yeah, it's tough trying to figure out how to beat PePe when you've got a lot of problems, because number one, like I discussed just now, traps, sure, you might win if you're playing like Goes and Anti-Spell going first and you open it and they just so happen to not have a Twin Twister, which I feel like is very rare, because number one, you're not always going to win the dice roll, number two, it's going to be hard to win 2 games against PePe with siding if you're playing back row. Number 3, if they do happen to draw Twin Twister, it's almost always over at that point, because they're going to hit multiple back row and multiple floodgates, like Goes and like Anti-Spell, and you don't really have much of a comeback because you're playing Rogue and you just cannot deal with the high ceiling that is PePe. The other option, of course, is hand traps, but hand traps have a lot of problems in their own regard. Sometimes you can open too many hand traps. Hand traps do nothing really for you going first. You want combo cards going first, not hand traps. And not drawing the hand traps going second means that, like, more often than not, your hand trap is going to be dead after turn 1. So yeah, I feel like the hand traps are cool and stuff, but I'm probably just really unlucky, but the number of times, like in the PePe mirror match, where I've top decked my 6th card and it's a maxi or something, it's just too infuriating, and I absolutely detest it. So the next cards I thought about for a while, at least a couple months ago, maybe, I'm not sure, I think I discussed this like in November time or something, and I said Dark Hole and Raigeki feel like they've just been power creeped out of the game. And you know, during a time where PePe was not at full power, and you know, probably their best power card was Draco Slayer. Dark Hole and Raigeki just wasn't very good then, because that deck did rely a little bit less on the extra deck. Not that much, but with things like Magicians running around, that deck didn't really particularly rely on the extra deck too much. So if you Dark Hole or Raigeki Magicians, everything would go to the extra deck. So for a while, at least when PePe and Magicians were very prominent, Dark Hole and Raigeki did not seem very good cards, and they seemed really, really obsolete in my eyes anyway. I don't know if you guys agree with that. But now, I feel like maybe these cards could make a return, and I feel like identifying the problems with the PePe Mirror includes things like not being able to go first, hand traps being sometimes more of a burden than a blessing, and thirdly, probably the weakest argument would be playing traps altogether, especially floodgate traps. So if we kind of establish that everyone wants to go first and everyone wants to win the dice roll, go first, set up their unbreakable board, then we sort of have to think about ways to deal with that. And as someone who's generally pretty unlucky with dice rolls, I don't know, I thought that maybe perhaps trying to come up with a variant of MM in such a way that helps you win going second, because the way I see it, right, if you're going first and you're gonna have one less card, you're vulnerable to hand traps. So it's not sometimes if you open well enough, if your Ptolemaios gets veiled, it's not the end of the world, assuming their hand is not that great. But I feel like going second with the extra card might be a little bit better if we perhaps consider playing things like Dark Hole and Raigeki again. The reason why I think that perhaps this is just an idea I'm putting forward, I don't know if you agree, so if you take anything away from this video, this is my main argument. I want to argue that maybe, I could be wrong. If I am, please tell me why. I feel like if you're going to be playing PePe, especially coming into next structure deck with Monarchs and stuff coming out, cards like Raigeki and Dark Hole I feel are a lot stronger now, and I feel like this might be the time to blind second in the PePe Mirror, and perhaps blind second if you're playing any other deck like Cosmos and stuff. I think that with 2 Dark Holes or Raigeki, so that's 3 cards, maybe coupled with some hand traps, I feel like this should give you a really, really strong second, going second, first turn against PePe. Being able to open, for example, hypothetically, let's say you play 3 of these, and like, I don't know, 3 maxi perhaps, so that's 6 cards. So seeing one of those cards in 6 cards, well, at least in 5 cards because it's hand traps, should be quite high of a percentage. You don't want to break your hand too much by playing too many, because opening multiple hand traps, at least of different kinds of hand traps, is generally quite bad. Moreover, I feel like playing maxi requires that you play Veiler, because you kind of need something to draw into, because you're not always going to win if you're in maxi, unless you're playing PePe, because you do have chances to draw into jugglers. Second, I feel like has the advantage of Dark Hole and Raigeki against Monarchs, because you're going to be dealing with Dominion a lot. And I don't feel that PePe have that strong of a first turn against Monarchs. A lot of the time it is very strong. Against Monarchs, PePe, all they really need to do is make Rafflesia Infinity and you've probably won. Most likely you're going to have to Infinity the Stormforth. And number 2, if they summon Idea, you wait until the Eidos hits the field and then you Treacherous Trap hold them, and Monarchs end their turn. So where was I going with this? Yes, so Rafflesia very strong going first, Infinity very strong going first. But I feel like there's too many problems with the PePe Mirror, which is probably going to be your dominant matchup, in going first, that I feel like maybe it could be a good idea to go second, because of the advantage of things like Maxi going second, and things like Dark Hole and Raigeki going second. Chances are, if you're going second and you Maxi your opponent, you're going to be in the PePe Mirror match and you Maxi going second, your opponent isn't going to have too much of a play there. Their first turn with no battle phase, and 5 cards, I don't think there is any fathomable situation in which you would want to play through that max E. And what that means is that when you start your turn, they could potentially just have a board of Crobat and Scales, and they've passed. Maybe. Now, if they are playing traps, which I honestly don't think is optimal to main deck, you might not win, guaranteed from there. But I feel like going second, potentially, with things like hand traps, with things like Dark Hole and Raigeki, might be better for the PePe mirror match. I feel like traps in general are too obsolete, especially floodgates. And Dark Holes and Raigekis, I feel like, are definitely possible for making a comeback. I've seen a lot of people citing these at least. Perhaps, maybe it's not at the stage where we should main deck them. But side decking at least, I feel like Dark Hole and Raigeki are very, very viable. Particularly against Monarchs. Because they're going to be playing things like Vanity's Fiend. And particularly against the PePe mirror match. Because you don't want to have to deal with Infinity Rafflesia and having to bait out with your Scales and Twin Twisters and stuff. At least I think so, anyway. So that's going to wrap up everything I've been thinking about tonight. I think that's essentially all I have to say. If you have any suggestions and stuff and how you think the game and the format and the PePe mirror match and beating PePe in general is going, please let me know and give me your suggestions. If you think I've said anything that's grotesquely incorrect, please do try and correct me, and I shall be looking forward to reading all your thoughts and comments. Recently, you guys have been very, very involved with the discussions and stuff I've been putting forward. I really like that, particularly the last Cosmo video I made. People were, how should I say, very passionate about some of their arguments, which is good. I like that. I mean, we don't necessarily have to agree on certain things for a discussion to be had. So hopefully I can get some talk out of how you feel about this matchup. So like, comment, subscribe as usual. As a small announcement, this Saturday, about 10 AM or 11 AM GMT, I'll be streaming the second Scottish regional in Lanark. This Saturday. The internet and stuff has been purchased in some way. It's some Wi-Fi box that had to be brought in or something like that, so that'll be streamed. Please follow me on Twitch and you'll be able to watch the whole event from Twitch live streamed, and especially in the later rounds it usually gets very, very entertaining when most of my friends end up going X2 drop. So we'll get people like Liam and Duncan on for you because they're the biggest contenders. So it should be a fun, entertaining commentary. Also, I haven't really received enough donations on Twitch, but I decided to fork out a lot of my own personal money. So I've invested in a quality webcam and an extension cable. So the streams after I receive it, which will be live on Saturday, will hopefully be of really, really good quality. And I'm really looking forward to how it's going to turn out on Twitch. The last regionals matches still need to be uploaded, so I'm going to get on that sometime. The only reason I haven't bothered to upload is because Twitch has this issue where you can't download your past broadcasts, so I can't edit them, because some of the matches are a bit slow, so I'm maybe just going to have to like pick the best ones. On top of that, my own personal home internet is quite decent, but the upload speed is very terrible. So uploading 7 regional feature matches, that's a lot of bandwidth and pretty much a lot of waiting time and slowing down on my own internet when I am using it for doing these videos. So that's why I haven't done that yet, but I promise I will get around to that eventually. So yeah, that wraps up everything I have to say. Please tune in on Twitch on this Saturday for the regional, and let me know what you thought about this discussion and tell me your opinions. So comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.